Hello YouTube, and welcome to this arm training master plan. So I made many videos on how to train your arms, but I've realized that many of them are purely theoretical, and for some of you guys that are not versed in arm training, they can be a bit tough to approach. What I wanted to do today is to create something purely practical that anyone can follow, even if they don't understand programming, because I've come to believe that the more you practice the thing with your own body, the more evident it's going to become. It's always best to do 15 push-ups rather than read an entire book about push-ups. So it's going to be in line with the shoulder master plan I've already put out for you guys. That's in the description. If you want bigger shoulders, I did the exact same thing for that muscle group. It's a challenge that we do all together on this channel. We are going to train our shoulders following the master plan, and in a year, we're going to see how much size we've put on. I'm going to run you through steps. You're going to follow these steps for as long as it takes, and at the end, you are going to get massive arms. So, this plan in particular has 3 categories: novice, intermediate, and advanced. Novice is for people who have never isolated their arms before. Intermediate is for people who have some experience in arm isolation. And advanced is for lifters who already have good arms but want to take it to the next level. The reason why I insist on the term isolation is because, of course, you understand that since we're going to grow the arms, aka the bicep and the tricep, we are going to do it through isolation. We're not going to talk about compounds much today because that is not the way to get bigger arms. At this point, if you follow this channel, you understand that this is my philosophy. Chin-ups for biceps and bench for triceps produces garbage results, and it creates bodybuilders with small arms. I want a new generation of bodybuilders with arms so big that they can barely fit in a t-shirt. So this is my method because this is what worked for me. I have 18 inches arms natty, and I got that through isolation. It's not compounds that got me that. So I'm going to put you on a very similar plan. Now understand one thing, these 3 categories are of course arbitrary, and they have nothing to do with novice, intermediate, and advanced in terms of strength. I'm not talking about strength here. You could be someone with a 600-pound deadlift and still be a novice in terms of arm training if you never isolated your arms properly and seriously for many years. So start with step 1. There is no shame in being a novice in something. If you want bigger arms, you have to start somewhere. Some people like me isolate their arms from day one. Some people just were lazy on arm isolation for years and years, and they have to start somewhere. So always start with step 1, but if you run through the first few steps and you realize, hey, I've already done that, good for you, move on to the next steps. That is as simple as that. So for the novice stage, the step 1 is going to be for you to pick one movement for the biceps and one movement for the long head of the triceps. I insist on long head of the triceps. Why? Because you could also, if you wanted, that's optional, pick one movement for the lateral head of the tricep. But since these are going to be worked by presses, and I hope that you do at least one vertical and one horizontal press in your program as a novice, we can sort of be lazy on that part of the tricep for now. We will get back to that later, but for now you could. What I don't want, however, is people neglecting the long head. So I insist, pick one tricep movement that works the long head. The one about the lateral head is optional, and the bicep movement is of course obligatory as well. Only one, this is so important, only one. Why? I'm going to explain it later, but for the most part is so that we don't lose you. You are a novice, you don't need VARD yet, you don't need things to prevent overuse injuries yet, you need to pick something that you like and stick to it. I insist also on things that you liked. Do not pick a curl because it's cool and it's trendy on Instagram and everyone is doing that one, so I'll do that one. No. Pick the one that you enjoy and that you can do comfortably. This means that you have to cycle through lifts. It's perfectly okay to try different types of curls until you settle on one that you like. I'm not telling you to pick the first one. So there's going to be a sort of adaptation period at first for you to decide which lift you prefer. But once you have selected one that you like, please do stick to that movement. Now, what movement should you do? Which curl is the best? It don't matter. A curl. Pick a curl, and then for long head of the tricep, you can pick a behind the head extension, you can pick a skull crusher, a line tricep extension, a cable extension, whatever you prefer. As long as it works the long head, we are Gucci. If you need ideas on movements because you're a noob, check out the description. I put the tier list for bicep and tricep. All of the best movements are in S and A tier. You can take any movement that you want from there, but again, only one. And we're going to favor movements like standing dumbbell curls or line tricep extensions that aren't as strict as pure arm isolation. What I mean by this is that we're still doing isolation, okay, don't get me wrong, we don't do compounds here, but I would want something that's not too precise. So don't do a tricep extension with cable at a 45-degree angle with a slow tempo, no. Pick me a lift that you can do with intensity that you like. We don't need to be fancy at this point, you are just starting to build the statue. The little details of the tricep and bicep can be built afterwards, but for now we want to put mass on, and for mass we want serious movements that don't need all of that precision. You don't need precision yet. That was step one. You have your movements now. You have two of them. Step two is going to be the number of sets you do. I recommend for novices in arm training 3 to 6 sets a week tops. Not less, not more. This is also very important. So you're going to do either 3 sets once a week or 6 sets in total, so 3 sets 2 times a week. Do not do 6 sets at once. It's a waste. You don't have the muscular endurance for that. So if you train 3 times a week, 3 sets on one day, 3 sets on the other day. It's not that much because again, it's only 6 for biceps, 6 for triceps. But I believe that you can grow from that. We're going to get back to it. And for the rep range, 6 to 10 or 8 to 12. Again, nothing fancy, not too high volume, not too low. I want you to do things with a proper form, so not a lot of weight. And that is enough volume. No need to do 20 or 25 reps. That's pump garbage. We want to do something that challenges us. Again, I know that some of you might come to me and tell me, NH, I've been told I need to do 12 sets or 15 sets. You have me do only 3. I cannot grow from it. Yes, you can if the sets are effective and pushed to failure. You're a novice. Your arms are literal spaghettis. They will respond to anything. Would you get marginally better gains if you did 9 sets instead of 6? Maybe, but it's so little. And on top of that, because you're a beginner, there's also a chance that you're just going to just shoot yourself in the foot. You're at a point where you don't have work capacity yet and your recovery is garbage. So we want to keep you with as low sets as possible to get as many gains as possible. Don't worry, you are going to drown in isolation sets the later down the line you get, because the additional steps that come afterwards, of course, bump up the sets. But for now, milk your newbie gains with everything that you have. Do as little as you can, because you need to keep your enthusiasm in your back pocket. That's something I'm going to repeat a lot. The key of arm isolation training to get massive arms is to keep it interesting. If you make the mistake of trying to be too fancy at first, with too much work at first, you're going to put yourself in a position where when it's time for you to bump up the volume as a tool to progress, you won't be able to because you've already done it. See what I'm trying to get here? We're starting you in slow gear because when it's time to speed up, I want the gears to be available. So that's what you're going to do. Now, I insist on the fact that you have to push those sets to failure. This is why I have you do so little. If you do 15 sets, I've seen that so many times with lifters, you're going to bullshit your way through sets because you'll think, well, I still have 3 sets later down the week. No. Here you have 3 to 6 sets for biceps and triceps. So you better push that set to absolute failure. We want to avoid what I call bro arm training, when it's a guy who does 20 sets of arm isolation a week, so 40 total for biceps and triceps, and he has no gains to show for because he's doing too much and he is doing junk volume. I also want to make clear that you should not be worrying about what I call compound interference. That's also something I see with novices. They have been told that squat, bench, and deadlift is the most important part of the program. That's not necessarily untrue, but you also have to keep in mind that your curls are not going to take away from your ability to squat, okay? So do your isolation. Don't worry about the compounds will not suffer. The only thing you have to pay attention to is to make sure that you don't double dip on a muscle. So if you are going to do chin-ups and you want to be performant, yes, opening with curls might not be a good idea. But if you do 3 sets of curls on a Wednesday, your Friday performance on chin-up is not going to be hurt, I guarantee you that. A set of curl fatigues nothing but your biceps. And that's exactly what we want, because the more we advance, the more volume we have to feed the bicep, the more sets we do, the more it could interfere with the rest of the program. But because we do isolation, it won't. It will just feed stimulus to the muscle. So that's exactly what we want. That's perfect. If you choose, for example, to pick a lateral head of the tricep isolation in the program and you want to do presses plus that movement, you should put it as far away from your presses as possible or on the same day. And that sort of contradicts what I just said. I tell you to not double dip. Double dipping is like if you don't have a choice. The best would be to do your lateral head isolation on Monday and your presses on Thursday. That way you have plenty of time to recover and your performance for both. But let's say you can't, and the only way you can do both is on Thursday. Start with the compound and then do the isolation. And that way you don't lose performance on the compound and you still get your isolation in. The reason why I absolutely insist on you guys doing little sets is because the goal is to push progressive overload for as long as possible with minimal variations in volume and frequency. I insist on this channel, and many good bodybuilding pages also do, that progressively overloading using only weight on the bar is stupid because you are limiting your ability to grow. That is true. But I've also found that if you open up the book of progressive overload to novices and you tell them, hey, you can also do more sets, you can do more volume or reps, they tend to hyper-focus on it because they go for the pump and they do more work and they think, wow, it's cool, I do 15 sets. The issue is that they then lose sight of putting weight on the bar, which puts them in a loop. They are like in a hamster wheel where they go nowhere. And I've seen that with my own two eyes. People who do bro arm training for a year, they put on no size on their arms because they never actually progress. But they do a lot of exercises. It's just that it's just a circle. They never actually push forward. So to make sure that this mindset never enters your head, because it's a bad habit that is very tough to unlearn, we keep you on 3 to 6 sets per muscle. That way you cannot escape that. The only way for you to push forward and progress is weight on the bar. I'm not letting you do anything else. So again, 3 to 6 sets, 6 to 12 reps, 1 to 2 times per week. That is what you do. You are a novice. You do not need anything else. You're going to stick to these 2 steps and you're going to keep adding on weight to your exercise for as long as you can see results. I told you at the start, this is a step-by-step. Now, again, a lot of the time, when you see step-by-step, it's a guy on Instagram that it pretty much runs you through something that is supposed to take 5 weeks and then you're massive. That's nonsense. Each of this step is going to take you a lot of time. So step 1, step 2, when it's settled, you might spend 6 months to a year following that. If it keeps working, stick to it. Maybe you are a genetic freak and you can keep progressing on these 2 steps for 2 years and put on inches on your arms. If that's the case, do it. Why? We want to keep the gears in the back pocket. This is step 1 and step 2. If you can make massive results from that, imagine how much you can get from the rest. It's why I told you that I don't think that the intermediate novice stages should be based on something as arbitrary as strength or size. It should be based on progression and how we're going to utilize these statuses to push progression for the lifter. So I want to keep you a novice for as long as possible. I know it's counterintuitive because you cannot wait to not be a novice. Stay in childhood for as long as possible. Stay in dreamland for as long as possible. This is the part of the program that's the most streamlined, the easier to understand, so we want to keep you there. Once you stop progressing and you are plateauing using that method, then we are going to push you forward. That is going to be the intermediate stage. Before we move on, a note, arms are not legs. Stop trying to jump 20 pounds in your bicep curls. That is stupid. Do 2.5 pound jumps, 5 pound jumps, 10 pound jumps with a 5 on each side. That's already a lot for arms. You can, but you absolutely have to keep an eye on the rep range. If putting weight on the bar knocks you out of the rep range, you fucked up. If you did 6 to 10 on curls and now you can only get 4 because you put on weight, you fucked up. You have to go back and you have to stick to the rep range. The rep range dictates the amount of weight you put on. You always have to stay within the rep range. And also, you must never let your form degrade. As I told you, I encourage you to do something like a standing dumbbell curl because it's not as strict at first to get used to the method of arm isolation that is not super precise. So you're going to cheat a bit, but please be honest with yourself, okay? Don't start moving the 50s around and tossing them around like an asshole when you know that you can barely handle the 30s. I've been that guy. We are all men, we have egos, and we want to measure dicks in the gym. It's not a dick measuring contest. This is about growing your arms. Pick a weight that stimulates you. I don't care if it's the pink dumbbells. If you go to failure with 6 to 10 reps, you are using relevant weight, and that's the weight you should be using, period. It stops there. Now that this has been established, let us move on to the intermediate stage and step 3. So, step 3 is going to be your first introduction to more advanced arm training. And to be able to keep fueling your progress, we're going to have to add more volume. But we're not just going to add more sets or more reps, because reps will knock you out of relevant rep ranges. You're going to start doing 30 reps and that's stupid. And more sets might become boring and it might create overuse injuries. So what we're going to do is we're going to add variety to the program by picking one more movement for biceps and triceps. So you have a total of 4 to 5 now. 3 to triceps, 2 to 3 to triceps, and 2 for biceps. And I recommend that you pick a movement that differs from your first, again, to keep it fun, all right? Keep it exciting. Let's say you were doing something like dumbbell curls, try easy bar curls, try a cable curl. Again, I had put on many options in my tier list. Pick something that you're excited about, that agrees with you, and that is comfortable. That is all I ask of you. If you have already 2 isolation for triceps, as I said, you can make your third a tricep biased press, which means that if in the novice phase you decided on 1 long head of the tricep isolation and 1 lateral head, what you could do at this stage is pick 2 long head of the tricep and 1 lateral head that is going to be a press. That is an option. You could also pick 2 lateral head of the tricep, 3 long head. 3 long head would be a little bit overkill, so maybe keep it a ratio of 2 to 1. 2 to 1 is a good ratio. Once that is done, you end up with more movements to play with, and we can introduce new rep ranges and new sets. So now, step 4 is going to have you do 6 to 12 sets a week. So we doubled the amount of sets. Does it mean that you as a novice is going to go from 6 sets to 12? No, I want you to build up to it, okay? Again, just do as much as is necessary to grow. Keep those gears in your back pocket. You are at 6 sets, try doing 8. You are doing 3 sets 2 times a week, try doing 4 sets 2 times a week. That is plenty for growth. That's 2 additional sets. That is going to last you maybe 4 months. Only add sets when necessary, okay? Upper cap and limit of the sets you will do is 12. For the intermediate stage, it's 12. Again, why? Because I want you to progress within that range of volume. I don't want you to do 20 sets. You can progress with 12 sets. You can progress with 6 sets. So you could be doing something like 3 to 4 sets 2 times a week, 4 sets 3 times a week, etc. As you come to understand also, the more sets I have you do, the more freedom you have, because the more of an ability you have to dispatch them throughout the week. You get to pick where you put them. The only thing I ask is that you try not to do more than 4 sets. Do 2 to 4 sets per day that you select, but never do more. Let's say you want to do 10 sets of bicep this week. You could do 4 sets of your first movement that you selected, and then 3 sets and 3 sets of your new variation. That way we keep it fresh, we keep it exciting, and we also make sure that you might hit the bicep with a slightly different angle that is also going to deload the tendon and allow you to keep going. For the rep range of each of these variations, I would recommend that you select one that is strict. So let's say you do something like an easy bar curl and a dumbbell curl. Easy bar curl is 6 to 10, dumbbell curls is 8 to 12. Stick to that. That way it gives you a good idea of what you have to progress with and when you have to put on more weight. Again, never lower than 6 reps, and you can go as high as 15 if you want, okay? 15 is the upper threshold. The only exception would be if you decide on a triceps biased press, which in this case, of course, would stay within low rep ranges. So if you do a close grip bench, do a 3 to 6, do a 6 to 8, a 6 to 10, but you can go lower if you want. Adjust the number of sets per week to push progression, all right? So that is your guideline for this step 4. How many sets do? I do as many sets as needed to push progression. That is the logic. And please understand also that this bodybuilding game is about putting in the effort. Whether you did 6 or 8 sets matters very little. What matters is that you did your sets. In reality, that's something that I've also come to realize. Yes, programming is very important, but we're not there trying to solve nuclear fission here. It's not about if I forget one number in the equation, it all goes to shit. Do the work within the guidelines I give you, and I guarantee you that you will see progression. Now, progression, again, here constitutes more reps with more weight, which means that you do not sit at the same weight. This is the stage where people stall. This is the stage where people stop because they put in all of their gears at once and now they cannot go any faster, but also because they have fallen for the volume meme. Now they have so many variations and sets to do that, they're sort of comfortable using the same weight times and times again. And I saw that with my own two eyes again at the gym. People who I kept an eye on, because I'm nosy like that, and I saw their bench going up, their squat going up, everything going up, but their curls stayed the same. So in December, they're curling the 35s, and then they're there again in July, they're curling the 35s. That's not normal. Weight also goes up along with volume. Also, do not make the mistake of perma-rotating the lift, which is why I keep you at 2 variations. You could ask me an age, why only 2 variations? I want to do more. I want to do everything in the gym. No. Why? Because if you do that, you are going to fall for the same trap of what I call lifting ADHD, of jumping from rotation to rotation because it's fun and exciting and never progressing because your brain is, in a sense, satiated by the novelty of the lift. Do not do that. That is a mistake. Stick to your 2 variations. In total, you have 2 for the biceps, 2 to 3 for the triceps. That is plenty. I do not want to see you do more than this. However, this is an absolute statement, and I'm starting to sound like a dictator here, like I decide what you do. There is flexibility in this. The one type of variation that you can knock yourself out with and do as many as you want is what I call a soft variation. A soft variation is something, for example, like a dumbbell curl, and you decide to do a cable curl, but in the exact same fashion. Yeah, that's a soft variation. You're not going to lose on progression because you just modified the implement. Same goes with a towel. You want to do your curl with a towel, it's fine. Do it. It's a soft variation. With a rope, it's a soft variation. What I don't want is you to go from something like a preacher curl to then a cheat barbell curl and think, well, it's still a bicep movement, so it counts as a rotation and variation. No, it doesn't, because it's not in the same line of specificity. So if you have a tricep movement, and let's say you maxed out, you have your 2 variations, and you want to try a 3rd one, that's fine, but it has to be a soft variation. And then we move on to the advanced stage. The advanced stage means that your arms are bigger than 99% of lifters. So you are already a monster, but you want to be a super monster. I'm in that case. What do we do next? Do we do more sets? Do we do more volume? Do we find a secret variation that is going to blow up our arms? No. I've made insane arm gains in the past 3 months and I did nothing new. I just refined the process. So we're going to take all of these steps we already did and we're going to condense them to create a diamond. That's the exact thing we're going to do. So in step 5, you're going to pick 1 more movement for biceps and triceps. 1, not 5, 1. And we're going to pick a movement that is as strict as possible. So it's going to be something like a preacher curl that is super strict or a machine movement for the tricep. Strict does not mean that your body doesn't move. There are movements for the triceps that you need to move your shoulders and elbows to recruit the long head, okay? Don't make me say what I didn't say. What I want is a movement that completely deloads the rest of the body, even more than a standing curl. A standing curl still sort of recruits the shoulders, the core because you're standing, etc. A preacher curl is pure bicep. We want to make sure that the stimulus goes to the muscle and also that it doesn't impair with the rest of the program, because if you're at the advanced stage of arm training, most likely you're also fairly advanced for the rest of your training, so you do a ton of work. It's still, quote unquote, only 3 bicep movements and 3 to 4 triceps movements. You are not going to do the 3 of them or the 4 of them. The reason is, for what I explained previously, doing too many rotations and variations, if they're not soft, can lead to stalling. Stick to your 3 favorites. You only need 3 solid men to conquer a city. You only need 3 solid movements to create big biceps. Yours truly only does 1, 2, 3, technically only 3 movements for the biceps. I do standing curls, I do preacher curls, and I do easy bar curls. That is all I do. And that is enough to grow. So this is what we're going to have you do instead. We're going to rotate. So for week 1, you might do 2, and then week B, you're going to do 2 as well. That way we keep it fresh and we keep you training bicep. The worst thing that can happen is that you get hurt. Your tendons cannot take the training because you're starting to really do a lot of volume for the bicep and tricep, and the elbows are fragile, sadly. Or you are at a point where you just don't want to keep going because it's not fun anymore. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. Rotations are going to do that for you, as I just explained. Rotations are also doable for intermediates, but as I said, it's more risky because it could trigger lifter ADHD, where you just chase a new rotation all the time and a new variation. So try to prevent that as much as possible. The reason why I think that this method in particular for advanced lifters is important is because I've noticed that for arms, you have to keep putting weight on the bar and you have to keep doing more and more reps, more and more sets until you get to a point where you can add more weight, then you can go back down in sets, etc., etc. If you're confused by this explanation on progressive overload, I made a full video about the 85% rule that perfectly explained this entire process. And that was for step 5. So this is the last step. Most likely, if you're a noob and you have small arms, this step will be in like 4 or 5 years. So you have plenty of time, okay? No need to worry about whether or not you understand step 5. You're going to be fine. Then step 6, which is the last step, is how much work do we do? I introduced that portion by saying that we're not going to start doing a ton of work, and we won't. We're still only doing 6 to 15 sets because we want to, again, focus on putting weight on the bar and not end up doing too much volume for nothing. This is the point of your training where any pockets that you have of recovery available to train your arms, train them. Don't even question it twice. For me, I'm at a point where I train biceps literally every 2 days. Every 2 days I train biceps, every 2 days I train triceps, sometimes more than that. Why? Because you are at a point where you are going to have to put in so much work for so little result that you have to find a way to game the system. And the more you can train the biceps throughout the week and the more you can recover, and the triceps as well, the more you can game the system because the more you can put in and the more you can get back. And that is that. That is that for this entire massive arm master plan. So as you understand, again, it's not an Instagram thing about pick that one movement and do it twice and it will be massive. No, this is serious. This is an actual plan. It's a live plan that you can apply today and that is going to stick with you for years. This is going to take years, but that's the way it's done. If you want those big guns as a natural, you're going to have to start training arm training as the business that it is, and it's a serious business. And now that you have a plan, you have no excuse not to do it because you literally have to follow the steps. It's as simple as that. Now the rest is up to you. The full plan is pinned in the comments for those of you that like to follow as I speak and they want to maybe copy paste it, save it for later to follow the plan precisely. All of that is available. I'm going to leave you with that for today. We are going to reconvene in a year to see how much progress you're going to make because yours truly is also doing this. I'm on step 5 and 6. And if you would like more of these plans, let me know. I've also made great discoveries about forearm training. I would love to share them with you so I could make a forearm training master plan if you want it again, from novice stage to advanced stage. My goal, as always, is to make sure that we push those natural limits. We finally reclaim our rightful place in YouTube fitness. And that is going to take not only intellect, but also brawn, and this is both. So have a great night, get on this arm training plan, and I'll see you very soon.